Welcome into the Showtime Fantasy Football Podcast. Today is Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. This is your host, Ty Stewart Langston from sunny Dallas, Texas, and welcoming in my co-host from Rogers, Arkansas, Trayton Benz. How we doing, brother?
Pretty good. You're throwing me off by not having a song. What happened there?
Yeah, we're kind of recording right here on the heels of the Razorback game. Didn't really have time to prepare a song, so we're just gonna dive right into what everyone's really here for, that juicy fantasy analysis. But yeah, so I was not here last week. Last week you did a solo pod. Everyone got to stare at your beautiful, very not patchy facial hair for a half hour while you broke down all of the playoff and Sacko scenarios heading into the last week of the season. Here we are on the other side of all of that, and it played out more or less. Everything stayed the same. Did anyone actually move at all in the standings?
No.
So with all the hypotheticals and points, tiebreakers, and what if this happens and what if this happens, there did end up being some upsets, but that actually ended up making it a little less exciting, which we'll get into. But let's take a look back at the week that was week 13, last week of the fantasy regular season. It was a Thanksgiving week, so a little bit unique. We had 6 games on Thursday, a Black Friday game, and then the meat of the red zone. Still had a little bit left, but there was a lot decided before then. We'll kind of start off here with one of the more irrelevant matchups. Let's see. Let's go with Max and Will. This one was actually pretty relevant, just from the standpoint of if Will had managed to beat Max, this was kind of Will's win and get out of Sacko free card, because he had plenty of points for on Max, and if he had beat Max, he would have tied him in record. So the task was simple for Will, and he just did not live up to what he needed. And Lamar Jackson is going to be kind of the one to blame here, as he has for the last 3 weeks, really a whole month of the season. Even coming off that hamstring, he hasn't really done much, especially here lately. 6 fantasy points in this one, 7 the week before, 4 the week before that. He has not scored a touchdown in 3 weeks. So, Lamar Jackson really letting Will down when he needed him the most. Jahmyr Gibbs, kind of one of he's had like a weird thing this year where his floor is just a little bit randomly lower than it usually is. He still has the big weeks, 36, 49, 24, 35, but then he'll put out a 4, a 7, and then he had a 10, and this is a 10.1 this week. So 20 carries, which you love to see. Anytime Gibbs gets volume, you're going to expect production, but only 68 yards. Didn't do much in the receiving game either. And both of these players played on Thursday, so you could kind of see the writing on the wall for Will heading into red zone. There was too much ground to make up. Swift helped a little bit on Black Friday, putting up a 20-burger, but Pickens, his star top 5 fantasy wide receiver, only put up 13, and then it was left to bums like Olave, Sutton, and Tracy to try to dig Will out of this hole, and they just couldn't do it. Max puts up a very respectable 124 on the back of Kamani Vidal, 20 points, Nico, 19. Puka Stafford stack was actually pretty bad with only 25, but Bills defense came in pretty clutch for Max. 17 points from the Bills D. Got a late strip sack by Joey Bosa that kind of shut the door on Will in this one, but devastating loss here for Will. He ends the season, I want to say, top 3 in points for. Just couldn't get the wins when it mattered most, and this one was the one he needed most of all. It would have been, if he just finds a way to scrap this one together, he is resting in Cancun. Instead, he loses, only puts up 102, and is headed to the Sacko.
Yeah, there was like a 5 to 10 minute stretch there during the afternoon slate on Sunday where Kamani Vidal had a 30-yard rushing touchdown, and then the Bills defense had, I believe, a pick six, and
No,
so
strip sack.
strip sack for touchdown. But yeah, Max just got a whole bunch of points in a little bit of time, and that pretty much put it out of reach. Going into Monday, it actually was still up for grabs technically if Tracy had outscored Singletary by I think like 8, but Singletary kind of dominated Tracy. Tracy got hurt, and Singletary had the long touchdown. So it ended up looking probably not as close as it felt going into Monday. But yeah, tough scenes for Will, and honestly, kind of tough scenes for Max because he did not make the playoffs because I won. So we'll get to that. But looking at another relevant matchup, I guess we can talk about Cole and Cannon here. This one, I guess, didn't end up really meaning anything because even if Cole had lost, he would have still been irrelevant, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so this one didn't actually end up meaning anything. I guess technically, if I had lost and scored even less points, he could have got in the playoffs. But he does pick up the win over Cannon here, and you are definitely watching this one closely as Cannon cannot replicate your 12-1 season going into the playoffs. Cannon kind of limps into the playoffs here. Let me take a look at the schedule here for Captain Colonel. I think he's quietly fallen off that really strong pace he had early in the year. Yeah, last 3 weeks for Cannon: 114, 112, 113. Very consistent, but not where you want to be going into the playoffs. He has some concerns across his lineup that I feel like a lot of people are just overlooking and granting him championship already. But Saquon Barkley just has not been that guy this year. RB15. Rico Dowdle has fallen back into an RBBC with Chuba Hubbard. Kyron Williams is splitting with Blake Corum. Fergie is just a bum, touchdown dependent. Agbuka has fully fallen off a cliff from his first few weeks. So, I mean, JSN had his first bad game of the year, only 3 points, but you expect better from JSN. Taylor and Chase are good. Mahomes had a great game here, but honestly, Kansas team doesn't seem to be the juggernaut we kind of expected it to be going into the playoffs. That should be interesting. But in this one, really, it was Mahomes and the boys for Cannon. Didn't get much from anyone else. For Cole, this was kind of a season of you kind of just take the irrelevance if you're Cole. He had a bad roster. At times, he had a good record. Then he fell off. And then, I think you just accept irrelevance here if you're Cole because a lot of people were picking him to go to the Sacko going into this week. But he got a big win. RJ Harvey sealed it on Sunday Night Football with a 20-burger, 2 touchdowns, as Cole took this one down by 7. Hurts also had 20 on Black Friday, and then Bijan Robinson was Cole's stud all year. He had 28. So, but honestly, what plagued Cole in this matchup was what plagued him all year, and that's just a bunch of other bums in his lineup, especially receiver. Shakir 1, Metcalf 4, Gainwell was an embarrassing flex play. So I feel like this was almost an indicative game of Cole's entire season, and he should just kind of accept the irrelevance bid here.
Yeah, it's a good point you make about Cannon. His team just hasn't had the consistent firepower over the last few weeks or so. So you want to be peaking at the right time. It certainly seems like he's not. So we'll see. We'll see if that affects our picks for the playoffs here. All right, our last irrelevant matchup from Week 13. We had Luke Rapert falling just short to the Ugly Ducklings, 146 to 138 in a game where Luke's second-round pick, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sun God, gets hurt early in the game against the Packers, finishes with 0 catches. He averages 15 fantasy points, and you lose this one by 8 brutal, tough beat there for Luke, but he definitely put himself in a position to attempt to crawl out of the Sacko here, just could not quite get it done. Jacoby Beef Brisket, 302, 23 points. Can't complain too much there. McCaffrey, only 15. I felt like he could have had a better game. They won 26-8, so you think maybe 2 of those touchdowns should have gone to McCaffrey, not just 1. Judkins in that same game had a really solid outing yardage-wise, 91 rushing yards, 18 receiving yards, but no touchdown for Judkins equals only 14 fantasy points. Devontae Adams is having one of the strangest wide receiver seasons I can remember. Caught only one of his touchdowns in this game was inside the 5. I think the other one was actually a deep ball, but he has tied the NFL record for wide receiver touchdown catches inside the 5, and there's still like a lot of weeks left. So pretty cool there for Devontae, the goal line wide receiver, 20 points for him, also 20 for Bowers. He got a big boost from those two, both catching 2 touchdowns. Bowers is just capable of having those high upside weeks. And then the flex spots are kind of where Luke's lineup falls apart outside of the Sun God Bagel. And we kind of pointed this out. I mean, it was just obvious. The names are embarrassing, and so is the production. Devin Neal, Jaden Higgins. I didn't realize this was a deep dynasty league. I don't know why these guys are being started.
They both got 8 points. I feel like he was okay with that.
Yeah, but you've got Alec Pierce, who's been better than both all year on the bench, scoring 15. And then you've got Kyle Monangai, who's also been very good recently with 19 on the bench. So he got cute, started waiver wire fodder over guys that had been producing, and it burned him. 28 combined from defense kicker is actually very good. For Josh, he didn't really end up needing this win because
it does get him the 3 seed.
Would he not have gotten that anyways? Oh no, because
I would have had more wins than him.
Yeah, so he does avoid Cannon. Not even sure if I don't know. I might be more scary than Cannon right now. So tough break here for Josh, ending up in the 3 seed. He pulled a last-minute tinker at quarterback, which was honestly just dumb and weird. I don't know why he did that. He went for the stack when he was already like winning and didn't need the upside for that. Obviously ended up working out, but I mean, May outscored Herbert by 8, and it was a close-ish game. So he easily could have cost himself a win just by doing that something stupid. Chase Brown and Derrick Henry actually playing each other. They combined for 30. Speaking of 30, A.J. Brown goes for 30 on his own in that Black Friday game. 10 catches, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. A lot of it in garbage time. Kind of pretty feels bad there for Luke. It was just kind of sitting around on Black Friday eating those Thanksgiving turkey leftovers. It's kind of a slow game, low scoring, windy. No one's really doing much, and you look in the fourth quarter, and A.J. Brown just catching like 15-yard digs with no one around him, and finds his way in the end zone twice. Ladd McConkey, yeah, I mean, also difference in this game also ended up being that Herbert McConkey late game stack touchdown on like 3rd and 8. Herbert rolls out to his left, throws a cross-body throw. Ladd is leaning out of bounds, catches it, keeps both feet in bounds. Great catch, stack touchdown, immediately 12 point something, whatever points for Josh, ends up winning by 8. So McBride, another solid game, 8 for 82 and a touchdown. Breece Hall scored. Jalen Warren scored. You're welcome, Josh. I gave you both those players. And, yeah, other than that, just good win here for Josh to wrap up the season. He finishes the regular season 8-5, makes the playoffs. Luke Rapert goes from the Sacko, goes from worst to champion to best, and now back in the Sacko playoffs trying to fight his way out to Cancun. Overall, pretty interesting shootout here between these two.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't realize how many guys Josh had that were honestly pretty dog shit outside of scoring touchdowns. Like Ladd, 12 with a touchdown, Warren 11 with a touchdown, Breece 14 with a touchdown, even Herbert 2 touchdowns and only 16. So honestly, he got pretty lucky as far as like touchdown to yardage ratio or whatever. But at the end of the day, Sun God getting hurt and Josh had it won basically at that point, especially after AJ Brown. So and Luke wouldn't have even escaped the Sacko if he won. So we won't spend any more time on that one. Now we're gonna go to our Showtime matchups of the week presented by Starbucks. Go get yourself a white chocolate mocha this holiday season. And we're going to take a look at you and Andrew in one of the most irrelevant games of all time, considering you both had your seating locked up. But if you look at this just from a, don't understand the situation perspective, it was a very entertaining fantasy game. Shootout, 146, 142. No Monday. Oh, there was Monday night. Stephon Diggs, 4 points.
He was already winning going into the night.
Okay, so basically, yeah. Either way, Diggs didn't matter. But was there Sunday night?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so yeah, no primetime potential in this one, but really for Andrew, this was one of the good weeks for him with stacking the Seahawks at DST and kicker really worked out. What is that, like
47
combined from DST and kicker? Holy shit.
Yeah, I saw a list that was like top 5. If you had them, you won that this week, and both of them were in that list.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's insane. They dominated the Vikings at home there. Jameson Williams, 23 on Thanksgiving. CeeDee Lamb, 20 on Thanksgiving. So he had some really nice Thanksgiving wide receivers. For you, you still feel good about your performance here going into the playoffs. You didn't really need a win. You would have liked the double-digit win season, but you kind of saw what you needed to see from a lot of your players going into the playoffs. Joe Burrow comes back. You start him, 23. Looked really good. They settled for a ton of field goals, but I thought Burrow looked good without Higgins. Bucky Irving also coming back off of injury. 15 in his first game, looked pretty good. Got the goal line work. Rashee Rice dominated. Christian Watson, pretty good for you. You might even have to consider him in the playoffs. But overall, you got some good stuff from a lot of guys, and that's really what you wanted to see. No major injuries to your team, I don't believe, that occurred here. So I don't know. You got any perspective on this game? Obviously, you didn't really care about losing to Andrew, but mostly just a tune-up for next week.
Yeah, it's always weird. It's like you're playing the balance of, do you want to see your team put up some good numbers going into the playoffs to feel good, or do you almost want them to like be due? Like it's almost like, oh my God, like did Rice just waste that 90-yard 2-touchdown game? Save that for next week. But I think overall, if you're splitting hairs, you'd rather see your guys playing well than like not playing well and trying to like convince yourself it's because they're about to have a big week. Yeah, everyone stayed healthy for the most part. Burrow, his first game since week 2, that was really the one I was mostly. I just wanted him to see. I wanted to see him look himself, and I thought he did. No T. Higgins. He was throwing darts to Yoshi. Jamar Chase didn't even really have that big of a game, and Burrow still looked solid. 23 points on the road in a like windy AFC North. Could have been a slug. It actually started out pretty low scoring, and Burrow still ends up with. I think what did they stall out their first 3 or 4 drives or something like that?
I mean, McPherson kicked, I think, 5 or 6 field goals.
Yeah, so for you to stall out that many times in the game and still end up with 23 fantasy points, that to me means there's a lot of meat left on the bone. Starting to see some good things from Watson. Bucky looked great in his return, dominated touches. It was so funny because they were talking about, oh, he's going to have like a similar, Godwin ramp up. We're going to bring him back and play him like 20 snaps and just see how it goes. And like immediately he just gets like 18 carries and Sean Tucker and Potato do nothing. So yeah, I think I feel good about where I'm at heading to the playoffs. I always lose. Like I have good seasons and I just lose to Andrew in the last week of the year every single year. I don't understand. Like Andrew is never that good and then just puts up like 150 on me every single regular season finale. So I really hope I don't get 28 and 19 dropped on my head in the playoffs by a defense and kicker. That would be a feels bad. That's one of those, like, thank God I didn't care about this game, because I would have been so butthurt watching the Seahawks just destroy Max Brosmer every single drop back, and Myers is just banging home 50-yarders. So, yeah, pretty glad this one didn't count, or it counted, but didn't matter. All right, our last Showtime matchup of the week is going to bring out our friend Mickey. This is your Mickey Mouse win of the week, your Mickey Mouse season of the week, your Mickey Mouse owner of the year, and your Mickey Mouse everything. You win this one 94-86, clinching a playoff berth. Dak and Javonte got you off to a solid start on Thanksgiving. 40.1 combined from them. It was looking a little worrisome, and then late in the game, Dak Prescott's getting pressured, steps up in the pocket, steps out to his right. Oh, he finds Javonte standing right at the goal line, wide open, flips it to him. A running back, quarterback, stack, touchdown for you. That was absolutely huge. Other Thanksgiving stuff from this week, we had Worthy goes for 9.4, pretty meh. Mop actually plunged in the end zone for a touchdown, 11.8, one of his better weeks of this season. Jake Bates had a meh 6. And then on Thursday night, Zay Flowers went for negative 0.4, while Yoshi caught that 29-yard touchdown. So you were kind of feeling a little not sure how that noon window went. Then you settle down and watch that Cowboys-Chiefs game. You see the stack, and then you're feeling like, all right, this is going about how I expected. And then on Thursday night, your essentially waiver wire receiver outscores his wide receiver 2 by 9.8 points. So really good things for you heading into Friday, which actually went pretty poorly for you. I think there was just one Friday play in this game. Rome Odunze, 2 receptions for 8 yards in this one. They dominated the Eagles on the ground, didn't really throw that much. Rome Odunze continues to just be a fantasy bum over the last month or so. That was his 4th game in the last 5 weeks with 6.8 points or less. He's continuously turning a lot of targets into no production. So not really sure how you can start or trust him into the playoffs. So we'll see if you end up starting him next week. But another honestly, a lot of embarrassing plays in this one. We had Chimere Dike, who I roasted you for on the live stream in the comments. I feel like you kind of glossed over that comment. I think I was pretty much trying to warn you on my way to Arkansas. I said my app's not working. It says Chimere Dike is being started in a 10-team league, and alas, negative 0.6 points. Fumbled, had 1 catch. No, yeah, he fumbled. 1 8-yard catch in which he fumbled, did nothing the rest of the game. I guess you were just praying for like a punt return touchdown or something there. I don't know what the thought process was. And then we had this one. This one actually came down to the wire. Jerry had positioned himself okay. His formula all year, well, he's 1-12, so there really was no formula. But his only hope all year was A-Chain going for 20+, which he more or less did that. And then just kind of pieced together the rest of it here. He only had 3 touchdowns on his team for the entire week, so that's always going to be tough to win. You had some solid contributions. Jacoby Myers, 6 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown. You got him in that trade for Trevion. You got Trevion and Jacoby, and you gave away Benson and Jamo. Now, the Jamo side of that doesn't look great just because he's been going off recently, and Sun God's nicked up. But Benson hasn't even played, and Trevion's, I think, at least won you 1 game and had some bright moments. So I'd say overall, it's not really a trade review segment, but I'd say you kind of won that one looking back. But I could definitely see Jamo being pretty good moving forward. But yeah, this one, I mean, this was winning in. This one was the last one really up in the air going into Monday night. It was Trevion Henderson versus Wandale and Hunter Henry. Jerry was down, what, like 8? What was he down?
14.
Okay, he was down 14. It actually ended up being not as fun as we would have liked because Will Lutz got 50% of Bo Nix's production. Bo Nix only 1 touchdown in that Sunday night game, which actually ended up being a very like shootout-y game. It was a 53-point total against a horrible secondary. You would have loved to see Nix get 1 more touchdown to make Monday night a little bit more exciting. But alas, he was not able to do that, which positioned you to pretty much just let Trevion walk this one in. Wandale was never going to do anything, and Hunter Henry almost did something. He had a 20-ish yard touchdown late in that game, called back by what I'm pretty sure was a questionable call, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the offensive lineman was going down to a 3-point stance, and they called like a legal motion or something.
Yeah, that was horseshit. You texted the B-Dubs Roger Goodell guy and said, "Please rate this for me." Would that have lost you the matchup?
Yes.
Really? Okay. So, yeah, we'll always kind of remember this one as the game you got bailed by a bullshit flag. But yeah, you sneak into the playoffs with one of the worst 8-5 rosters I've ever seen in my entire life, and Jeremiah lost his 8th game in a row, bringing his average points per week down to 103. Another sub-90 performance from Jer-Renaissance. I think he officially needs to change his name to the Jer-Recession and just brace for the Sacko at this point. It'd almost be an upset if he doesn't get it. Choose poorly is not a ton. Looking at the bench here, the only one of note is Terry McLaurin. Came back off injury, 7 for 96 in a score in his first game back. Mariota at quarterback. If he had started McLaurin over pretty much anyone other than Achane, he would have gotten the win. Got to question Jerry's decision-making here, but it's Jerry. So I'm pretty sure he had just given up on the season and he probably deleted the app until the Sacko playoffs started.
Yeah.
But congrats. Playoffs. Welcome.
Yeah, no, that's all I got to say. There's really no point in trying to learn anything from this week. This was just get my Jerry by, and no matter how it had to happen, Jerry by, make the playoffs. Now we're looking ahead.
And look ahead we shall, because we have arrived to the fantasy playoffs. 13 weeks of regular season fantasy down, 4 to go. As a reminder to our loyal listeners, we do a 2-week playoff matchup format. Top 4 teams make the playoffs. Bottom 4 make the Sacko. The middle 2, 5 and 6 seed, are in irrelevance. So, as previously stated, Cole and Max are safe in Cancun. They both had solid winning seasons, 7 and 6 records. Cannon is the 1 seed, going to take on you in the semifinals as the 4 seed. Josh and I'm the 2, Josh at the 3. That's the other semifinal. And then on the Sacko side of the bracket, we've got Jeremiah taking on... Who is the 7?
Luke.
Yes. Okay. Luke versus Jerry, and then Will versus Andrew. So winners of these 2-week playoff matchups will face off for the championship and the Sacko. Obviously, there's pros and cons with the 2-weeker. It definitely takes some luck out because it's a lot easier to outscore someone over 1 week than it is 2 if you're not better than them. And it also, like more often than not, the better team's going to win. It should be an exciting playoffs. Ramey Pride runs deep. All 4 OG Fantasy League members of the Blind Squirrels Fantasy League. You, me, Josh, Ken, just kind of feels right. We got 3 members from the east, 1 from the west. That feels about right. And then, I realized this. Someone's going to be bisexual. We have a Sacko playoffs full of previous Sackos.
Yeah, I guess because
so Cole, Max, and Cannon continue to elude the Sacko for at least one more season.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't think any of them have already been bisexual either. So someone is going to become bisexual for the first time.
Wait, so who are the only people who've won multiple Sackos?
I think it's just you and me. But those are all canceled out by our multiple championship, 3-time champions of the league. So no one cares about how many Sackos you have, except for whoever gets it this year. It's going to be so embarrassing. All right. Do you want to – I guess we can take a quick look at the waiver wire. Not a ton going on in waiver land. Josh with Drake May on bye and Herbert having hand surgery this past week. He goes in on Jordan Love, $21. Love is taking on the Bears this week, coming off a really good game. Doesn't just add Jordan Love. He adds Toyotathon Jordan Love, who is balling out right now. So, I can't say I'm thrilled about that. I would have rather played Herbert. I thought he was actually going to be stupid enough to play Herbert. So, didn't love waking up to that ad. And then, literally the second highest winning bid was just for $3. Luke falls for the AD Mitchell game. I can tell you right now that's going to end. Max, who is in Cancun, bids on Pacheco, who no one else wanted anyway, so I guess who cares. Andrew has a defense. You had 0 fab, and you kind of needed to put together an entire lineup through waivers because your roster was so shitty. So you spent all day Monday and Tuesday. You didn't sleep. You didn't take care of your child. You put in dad and work PTO to lock yourself in a room for 48 hours straight, listen to waiver pods, go through articles. You toiled over which of these bums you're going to add and try to upset Cannon. You end up going with Jordan Addison, Mike Evans, a little bit of a sneaky ad there. This was before the report that he's going to return to practice this week, coming off that clavicle injury. You also go for Kyle Pitts, with Gadsden being kind of a bum, and as we talked about Herbert's injury. And then was that it? You only had those 3, or did you add one more?
Dortch.
Yeah, the Dorcher Chamber. I don't know if that was on waivers or after. I'm not seeing it on the report.
It was in the morning.
Okay. Yeah, so pretty boring as you would expect at this point in the season. Waivers, everyone's just kind of jockeying for defenses, matchups. You see Luke adding – actually, he dropped Brian Robinson. So, yeah, you better hope CMC doesn't get hurt. So pretty boring waiver. Nothing much to talk about.
I see you dropped Ray Davis here, so you better hope James Cook doesn't get hurt.
No, I added Ray Davis. Oh, I did end up dropping him. I just added him on Tuesday. He sucks. So, any big takeaways from waivers this week?
No, I think Jordan Love is really obviously, other than my team, we can get to that. Jordan Love is kind of the big Josh kind of going all in there. I don't know. I think if I were you, I wouldn't be that scared of that. I know it's the Toyotathon thing, but I feel like Jordan Love, when he plays outside and at home, he just they play so conservative. I don't really this last game was in Detroit in a dome. I don't know. That just feels like the perfect setup for Jordan Love, and outside in the cold. I just don't, in a divisional game, I don't really see Love having some huge game this week.
I hope not. I do think I see this as Ben Johnson's just been trying to run the ball down people's throat. And they like to get the ground game going with Jacob. So maybe it just turns into a clock melting 12-plus play drive type of thing where they're Ben Johnson on the 4 end up doing a dick measuring contest with who can run the ball better. All right. Any trade review this week?
No, we did something dumb and push the trade deadline up like a week. So pretty boring. I don't know. We can just move on to the previews.
All right. So the 2025 Sacko and playoff previews presented by Ozarka Water. What do you want to? Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the playoffs. I feel like people don't really care that much about the playoffs. All right. Do you want to start? We can start with me and Cannon. I feel like that's the one that everyone feels like is a foregone conclusion. Which, to be fair, Cannon is 11-2, has been the top team all year. I infamously traded him his two best players in Jonathan Taylor and Jamar Chase. So this could definitely be an egg on my face situation if Jonathan Taylor and Jamar Chase destroy me, which they very well might. But again, looking at Cannon's team and some of the trends here, I'm not really seeing his team as a juggernaut right now. Patrick Mahomes has to face the Texans. That's not a good matchup. Kyren Williams kind of got banged up, and he's splitting with Blake Corum. Fergie's so touchdown dependent. Barkley just hasn't been the same guy, and Igbuka has fallen off a cliff. And then he's got bye weeks for T-Mac and Dowdle, and he's kind of let go of all of his other depth. So, again, if JSN, Jonathan Taylor, and Jamar Chase smash, and that's how I lose, then, more power to him, and that makes me feel dumb for trading him those guys. But and again, if you look at my team, not impressive at all. You sent that screenshot in the group text earlier. It looks like a waiver wire screenshot. So I understand that, but I think I have some good matchups. I like Dak and Javonte to get me off to a good start this coming Thursday against Detroit. That should be a shootout. If they get me off to a really good start, maybe 50 combined from Dak and Javonte, I'll feel okay about just holding my own. At least for this first week, and then who knows after the second week or going into the second week, anything can happen. But yeah, the rest of my lineup: Chris Rodriguez, Jacoby Myers, Rome Odunze, Michael Pittman. Maybe Aaron Jones ends up playing. Maybe Aaron Jones ends up playing against Washington. I don't hate that matchup. Maybe Mike Evans ends up playing against the Saints, and I play him. So we'll see. It definitely doesn't look great on paper, but the thing about fantasy is anything can happen, and I just need the right guys to catch a touchdown here or there. I need one of his guys to get hurt or just have a horrible week. Like JSN last week just had 3 points. Jonathan Taylor, 3 of his last 4 games, 7, 6, 13. So it's really not out of the realm of possibility that his team just doesn't do much, and then I get some, solid performances, and Dak and Javonte get me off to a good start, and I'm in a solid position. But overall, understandably, I'm a big underdog. Mickey Mouse, nobody gives me a chance. Probably nobody's even listening to this because they just fast-forwarded because they think Cannon's already in the championship. But what I kept going back to this week is I have an opportunity to do the funniest thing ever. And I think I'm going to do the funniest thing ever. I think I'm going to take Cannon down here in the semis. Nobody's giving me a chance, and that's where I want to be going into this. Dak and Javonte go for 50 on Thursday night. None of that goes to Fergie, and I take that huge start, ride the momentum through the rest of the 2 weeks. His players bagel, and I get a Mickey Mouse semifinal win against Cannon, somewhere in like the super low scoring range, like 220 to 205. Cannon's team just completely shits the bed, and I measle my way to 220 over 2 weeks. So that's how I see this playing out. What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's not the most far-fetched thing in the entire universe. Purdue did lose to Fairleigh Dickinson once upon a time. Virginia lost to UMBC. So, it's not impossible. I just think the odds are definitely against you. You mentioned Cannon's team has been coasting a bit. I do wonder if that's a little bit just, they knew they didn't have to try towards the end of the regular season. And now that the playoffs are here, they're going to turn it back on. I'd be a little bit worried about that. I'd also be a little bit worried about the revenge factor. Last time you played against Jonathan Taylor, he dropped 48 points on your head. Jamar Chase with Burrow back, he's definitely due for one of those Jamar games that those league-winning fantasy playoff. I think didn't we look and Jamar Chase has been on like 3 of the last 5 title teams or something. He just always seems to pull some 30 burgers out of his ass here in the last few weeks of the season. JSN, it's hard to see him having 2 bummy games in a row after the season he's put together. But I do agree with you about the others. Like, I agree that I would feel pretty comfortable with what Mahomes has going on right now. I don't know if you saw this, but his left tackle got put on IR today. His right tackle, I think, is also going to miss. So you're down both tackles against probably the nastiest edge pass rush in the NFL and a really good secondary. I think Mahomes has fallen off in fantasy a little bit. He's still QB1, but if you look at the last 4 games, he did have 37 against Dallas, but before that, 17, 15, 10. So I think I could see one of maybe not like 10, but something high teens. Maybe you get to 20, but not too much more than 20. I think you're good there, at least for week 15 from a floor standpoint. I don't know if you've taken too much of a peek forward to the week 15 matchups for Cannon, but it does look like he's taking on the Mahomes has the Chargers next week, who are also pretty good against quarterbacks. So I think you've got a solid draw here against Cannon in the first. There was a point in the season where I was determined to try to sandbag my way to the 4 seed because I thought Cannon had some tough matchups here. So it's not impossible. I just don't know if you're the one to pull it off. Your team, looking at it, it's just the pathway is pretty narrow, right? I think it's going to take you – you're going to need to outscore him at QB by like 30 over the 2 weeks, and that's going to have to start tomorrow night. You need to get off to a good start. Every upset in sports, you got to be on the front foot, put some pressure on the favorite. Once Cannon goes down by like 50 points, maybe he chokes and starts making some weird decisions. Maybe he panics and puts Tank Bigsby. I don't know. Maybe he chokes. You've got the more impressive fantasy playoff resume. Cannon has not really shown himself to succeed in these spots as of recent. I think his last title was 2021. When was his last? 2022. That's his only title. So he's going for his second title. You and me already have 3. We've kind of been there, done that. So all the pressure's on him. He's the one that went 11-2. He's the one that's been the conclusive, let's just ship him the trophy already favorite. He's got the 3 studs. So if he doesn't win this, it's actually going to be pretty embarrassing. Not sure he'll ever live it down. And, yeah, I mean, you've got some solid players. Like Jacoby Myers has really shown something the last few weeks. Yeah, Jacoby Myers. Yeah, it is tough making the case whenever I start to look at your team. But, I mean, rabbits can be pulled out of hats. Maybe 9 just transforms into like Tom Brady for a couple weeks and Jordan Addison goes for like 200 yards. I don't know how you're going to do it. I mean, you're not going to do it. I'm not picking you at all. I'm just making the case for fun. I do think Cannon beats your ass here pretty handily. Unfortunately, I do think it'll pretty much be over by this week. I could see you being down by as many as 70 heading into and then it's just kind of mop up duty for Cannon, garbage time. He sends in some scrubs and he starts resting for the championship. You kind of take your playoff berth banner, you hang it up and you start kicking your feet up for Cancun. I don't really see this being competitive, which tears my soul up because I do think Cannon's team has started to look gettable. I think there's like 5 teams that could have taken advantage of it, and you are not in that category. Not with the shape your lineup is in right now. Maybe like if you had J-Mo and Chase Brown instead of Trevion and DJ Moore. Trevion's on bye, DJ Moore's on waiver. There's just like a few moves. If you had just not done those stupid inconsequential moves, you could be in position to maybe put up some. But your lineup just has no upside right now. Even like we're saying, you need all these points combined from Dak and Javonte, and even they're like more or less negatively correlated. I know they had the stack last week, but what was that, the first one of the year? So not really something you can count on there. You're kind of looking at a max of like a ceiling of 50. Like you can't really get more than that. Yeah, I'm going to go with Cannon. Yeah, this is going to get ugly. I'm going to say 300 to 190.
Okay. Fair pick from you there. Taking a look at our other Showtime semifinal, this one is definitely more hotly contested in the projections. You versus Josh, 130 to 128 in the week 1 projection. So 2-3 seed, you expect that one to be a little closer, but it definitely feels like you and Josh have very even teams, and this could come out in any way. And honestly, one of the big storylines here is how much you and Josh traded with each other this year, as you guys are each starting players that have been on each other's teams throughout the year. For Josh, Breece Hall, Derrick Henry, Jalen Warren have all been on your squad at some point, even Drake May. And then for you, Josh has had T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, and Ken Walker. And so really one of you two is going to feel like a complete idiot at the end of this thing, and was really just figuring out who's going to feel like a complete idiot based on the trades y'all made. But looking at previewing the matchup, again, I think I like Burrow quite a bit more than Jordan Love. I think Burrow in a shootout with hopefully T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, that's just going to be better than what Jordan Love can put up. I, for one, know exactly what Jordan Love does in the playoffs, and he sucks dick. And then for running back, James Cook, Bucky Irving. I think you traded for Bucky Irving for this schedule, and it starts this week with New Orleans at home. I think you're expecting a 20-burger out of Bucky Irving this week. And then James Cook, best matchup, home against the Bengals. You're loving that. I think you're kind of expecting 40 from those two running backs. So you feel good there. For him, Derrick Henry, Breece Hall, not the easiest run defenses with Steelers and the Dolphins, but both at home, both should be at least okay. I think you have the advantage there quite a bit just based on matchups. Receiver, A.J. Brown, Lad McConkey going against each other on Monday night. I'm not really sure how you feel about that, but that game feels kind of gross, especially if Justin Herbert doesn't play. And the Chargers are good against receivers. If I were you, I'm not that scared of those guys on Monday night. Now, you hope you're up big going into that, so you don't really have to worry about him taking the lead going into week 2 based on those guys. But Rashee Rice, obviously he has a tough matchup too with the Texans, but at home, they just manufacture touches for him. Might not be one of his best games, but he'll be okay. And then T. Higgins, this is really the big thing for you. T. Higgins coming back off the concussion, you kind of need a stack touchdown with Burrow. If you want to beat Josh, I think over the next 2 weeks, you need at least one stack touchdown with T. Higgins. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're going to need a stack touchdown over the next 2 weeks. Tight end is kind of where you are shaking in your boots a little bit. Trey McBride has been such a beast this year. Now, he does get the Rams in week 1. And the Texans in week 2. So I don't know if you've looked at that. Pretty tough matchups for Trey McBride as far as defenses. So maybe he at least doesn't catch a touchdown. And then Tyler Warren will at least be fine. And flexes feels kind of like a wash to me overall. Chase Brown, Jalen Warren, those are kind of guys that you are hoping get you 12 to 13 points. And then Waddle and Ken Walker are similar. You know, Ken Walker, I think for you is a little bit more hope than actually what you've seen this year. He's only averaging 10, but he's been getting more and more work. And so you're just hoping that they finally let the reins loose on Ken Walker here going into the fantasy playoffs. And then Waddle has kind of fallen off lately, but he's still the number one receiver in a decent enough offense. So I think Josh might have a slight advantage at flexes, but not a huge one. I think the Chase Brown versus Joe Burrow thing is also another thing to watch if they potentially get rushing touchdowns with Chase Brown, but I don't feel like that's something they really do. So again, that's a lot of talking right there. Just thinking about you and your fantasy championships, and Josh has never been here before, really. I don't even remember the last time Josh made the playoffs, but Josh has never won a championship. He's going to be feeling all the pressure to try to get it done this year, but I just think your championship mentality, your championship experience comes into play here. You've made all the requisite trades. You drafted a suspended player for this moment. I think your team is coming into form, and you're going to get what you need out of Bucky, the Burrow-Higgins stack, and Josh's matchups and overall team just doesn't feel quite as connected to me as yours. So I'm going to lean you, but I do think it's pretty close. I think it's back and forth. It won't be decided in week one. I think you'll be up after week one by about 20. Maybe Josh makes a comeback in week two, but it's not enough. And you take this one down pretty close. I'm going to say 240 to 228, something like that, where it's a sweat, but nothing too crazy. So I'm gonna go with you here.
Yeah, good pick by you. I'm gonna take myself. Don't really see Josh competing here. Cute little playoff bid by him, but this is big boy time. This is the playoffs, and this is where I flex my fantasy muscles, my fantasy acumen in his face. I just don't think. I think I'm gonna outscore him by quite a bit here in week 14. With May on bye. I kind of Trojan horsed him, trading him May. He probably didn't even look that far ahead because he's never been in this situation, so he didn't really know to do that. Now he finds himself scrambling to waivers to pick up Jordan Love in a frozen handoff fest against Chicago. So not scared there. A.J. Brown sucks. He's probably going to get 2 targets and then go bitch about it on Twitch or something. Lad McConkey doesn't have a quarterback. Actually, he had Jefferson in, and then he like just recently swapped in Lad. So I'm not really sure about that. I was actually anticipating Jefferson. I've already had my scout team guys playing like running routes like Jefferson.
I mean,
so
if Herbert's out, you would agree he'd be a moron to start Lad over Jefferson.
I would think he's going to be a moron either way because even if he plays, he just broke his hand. Like, I don't know. He's not 100%.
It's not his throwing hand.
Still, I mean, we just saw Rodgers try to play through that, and he was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you said about the stack. I might pivot to Goff tomorrow. We'll see. If Sun God is active, I may pivot. So stand by for an all caps text from me, Jared Goff, in the last minute. There's been a couple times this year where I've waited till almost kickoff to make changes just for the dramatic effect, and it pretty much never works out.
So are you still tinkering at kicker here? I see you have Fairbairn on the bench. Not really sure what that's about.
Fairbairn's actually a stash. I kind of like Fairbairn for the rest of the playoffs. He is the number 4 kicker in fantasy, but at Kansas City, that can be a tough place to kick. I'm gonna rock with Luke. There it is. He's at home, favored. And I am still somewhat tinkering at defense. With the Chiefs tackles issues, I could see Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter kind of having a field day, and they are the number 2 DST, while the Titans are number 24. The only positive thing there is it's such a low over under, and they're playing Shador, who I don't know. Can you really start a defense against Mahomes when you have a defense playing Shabum? It kind of feels like Shabum is good for a turnover or two, maybe even a pick six. I feel like Mahomes may like take a couple sacks, but he's not going to like he's not usually going to do like the complete like what the hell was that pick six kind of play. So
Yeah.
I think I might roll with the Titans and just kind of lean into Shabum being a bum. Running back, I agree with you. I think I have a pretty significant advantage there. Bucky Irving, this was why I got him for this stretch. He looked great his first week back. He is full steam ahead. James Cook, been an absolute monster. Home against the oh my God, he's going to destroy the Bengals. I'm a little worried about Rashi just because Houston is so good, and then I'm a little worried about Higgins just because one, he's technically not clear concussion protocol yet, and the Bills have a pretty good secondary, and it's on the road. So I don't know. We'll see. A lot of noon plays for me. Like you said, a lot of guys that have been traded for each other, so it should be interesting. I do agree with you that I do think it won't be like done after the first week. I think I'll be up like 30. Josh will make somewhat of a surge early next week, but then like you said, just my fantasy experience in the playoffs will eventually shine through. I think I end up winning by at least 25 points here and setting up a gargantuan, titanic championship round between Cannon and I. So I'm going to take myself, let's go 285 to 260. All right. Now it's time to look at our Sacko matchups presented by Onyx Nail Polish Remover. All right. We've got the 7 versus 10 seed here. Renaissance taking on Circle the Wagons. Circle the Wagons actually in a bit of a precarious situation here. He's got McCaffrey on bye and Sun God hurt. So potentially down his top 2 draft picks in the first round of the Sacko finals. Renaissance really coming in with little to no momentum. 8 losses in a row, 1-12 regular season record. Not a lot to be super positive about here. I guess you got Achane still. McLaurin has shown a little bit of signs of life. Godwin's back on the field. But other than that, Jerry just kind of is rolling out the same bums every week and getting the same results. Not really sure why he hasn't at least tried more waivers or I know the trade deadline's passed, but it felt like even before the deadline passed, he didn't really try to make any trades. I guess not that anyone would have wanted his bum. I guess he did trade for ETN. What did he trade? What did he trade for ETN? Jefferson
for ETN and Flowers.
I'd say that worked out, but Flowers had literally negative points. So, kind of a bagel there by Jerry. Is this tight end all? Okay, looks like he's going with Dalton Kincaid, who I believe is hurt. So I don't know about that play. Looks like he was limited in a walkthrough today. He hasn't played in a few weeks. I would actually steer pretty clear from anyone hurt in a frozen tundra type game like that. I think he should go pick up someone else with Henry on bye. Wandale's also on bye, and as weird as it sounds, Wandale's like his second best player. So, but he is projected 115 and projected to beat Lucas Rapert here. Luke in a tough spot. He doesn't actually have a quarterback because Dart is on bye. Is he really going to roll with beef brisket against the Rams? Doesn't really sound right. Are there any? No, there's no quarterbacks on waivers, so he doesn't have any claims in. Yeah, we may have to do a wellness check here on Luke. Let's see. Can we get Luke like on the pod or something? I'm gonna give him a call real quick.
Okay.
Or he has to explain himself here. freaking probably taking care of Louie.
Hi, this is Luke Rayford. Sorry.
Yeah, you son of a bitch. He sounds like such a dork in his voicemail. Okay, so assuming he's checked his app in the last couple of days, I guess he's rolling with Jacoby. Like, are we supposed to preview this? There's no way he's playing Jacoby. I'm gonna text him real quick. Call me. Okay. All right. Running back, we've got Quinshon Judkins taking on the Titans at home. That's a pretty juicy matchup. And then with CMC on bye, he is promoting Kyle Manungai. Manun, that guy, from the bench to RB2. Manungai is at the Packers. Don't love that matchup, and I believe he actually missed practice today with an ankle injury. So who knows if he's 100% or if he even plays. If he doesn't play, looks like he'll be turning to the likes of Devin Neal again. So this is honestly a pretty embarrassing this is a pretty embarrassing lineup for Luke. He's also rolling out Alec Pierce. He's back to the Jaden Higgins well, and he's starting Adonai Mitchell off of waivers. God, this is disgusting. I didn't realize how top-heavy his lineup was until you see it without McCaffrey and Sun God. Tough scenes here for Circle the Wagons. And he does have Bowers. So he's got Bowers. He's got Devontae. Those are kind of his two rock-solid stalwarts there in his lineup. Currently not fielding a kicker. Not really sure what that means. He may be going for a waiver option there. There's a chance Luke actually hasn't touched his lineup because he still has Jacoby and no kicker. So I don't really know what's going on here. It makes it kind of a bitch to preview. But overall, we get the gist of what his lineup is. It will be, again, this is kind of where the benefit of the 2-week playoff matchup comes in. If he falls behind to Jerry by like 10 to 15 points, he could easily make that up next week with McCaffrey off a bye and Sun God back fully healthy. So overall, I'm still going to lean Circle the Wagons here. It's so hard to take Renaissance at 1-12 to actually not or to get to Cancun in the first round. I'm not saying I'm 100% picking Jerry to get the Sacko, but I don't think he's a first-round exit, not with this lineup. He would need some pretty special stuff out of Achane and, honestly, a pretty big bagel by Luke to avoid the Sacko finals. It will get pretty funny for the league and interesting if Jerry wins week 1 here, and then we head into week 2 and Luke has ground to make up because you just know Luke is going to start bitching about stuff and complaining and woe is me. Oh, McCaffrey's on bye. So, yeah, I'm going to take Luke in a bit of a comeback effort. I'm going to say after week 14, Jeremiah is up like 111 to 94, and then Luke mounts a bit of a comeback on the back of McCaffrey and Sun God, ends up winning. Got to go low scoring. I'm going to say 205 to 202. A thriller.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with Jerry here. He's 1-12, lost 8 in a row. But I don't know that Luke is going to be able to overcome the McCaffrey bye week and the Sun God injury. I think that snuck up on him pretty quickly, both of those things. Really all the same points you made, but I just don't know that Luke's going to actually mount that comeback. And maybe Jerry just – I don't know, maybe Achane. What Achane's matchups, Jets, Pittsburgh, not the best. I'm still going to roll with Jerry. I don't know. I think it'd be hilarious if Luke went to the Sacko finals after losing to Jerry. So give me Jerry 190 to 185, just some kind of shit show. But all right, last Sacko matchup. This one's pretty hilarious. Will versus Andrew. One of these guys has to be in the Sacko finals. Will third in points for or second or whatever. Andrew, just tough season overall, but honestly had a good week last week. Has some solid matchups. When you look at CeeDee Lamb and Jameson's getting him started off next or tomorrow. Josh Allen against the Bengals. So Andrew's not a pushover. Now he is starting Isaac Tesla at flex. I just now saw that. He's got some bye weeks himself with Juwan Jennings, Diggs, Kittle, tight end. He's going with Loveland. Don't really love that. So Woody Marks at Kansas City, not a fan of that. So he's got some studs, Josh Allen, Lamb, Jameson, Josh Jacobs, but kind of some bums mixed in there too, as you'd expect in the Sacko. For Will, it looks like he's going to trust Lamar Jackson. I don't really know how he can do that. He did pick up Caleb Williams, but at Green Bay, I can't imagine he ends up going there. So maybe he's just going to die by the Lamar or live by the Lamar, and he's going with Lamar even though he's had 3 straight single-digit games. He's really expecting Gibbs to get him off to a great start on Thursday. Pickens as well. Honestly, Thursday is huge for this game. Pickens and Gibbs versus CeeDee and Jameson. We're going to know a lot about this matchup after Thursday night. He has Drake London in. I'm not really convinced Drake London's going to play. He didn't practice Wednesday, so if he doesn't play, he'll probably have to turn to Bashal Tootin, which I don't know about you. I'm not really loving that.
I mean, he could always go add
Hackert's in the lineup. Olave, Sutton's kind of his usual receiver bums here. I don't know. I'm a little torn on this one. I feel like Will's team has been the better team all year. I like Gibbs. I like Swift. I like Pickens. Olave's been pretty solid, but Andrew has some really solid matchups and studs as well with Allen, Jacobs, Lamb, Jameson. I feel like these teams are pretty even. I could actually see it going either way. I think I'm just going to lean Will. I just think Andrew has been like the theoretically good team all year, but just has never actually put it together. He's just had quite a few bums, or even his studs just don't end up working out, whereas Will just seems to consistently actually put up the numbers. So don't really have a lot of like matchup logic or even which players give him the edge here. Maybe Lamar finally snaps out of it, but I'm just going to go with Will just because I feel like the team who's second in points for should never go to the Sacko finals, and maybe he just finds a way.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Andrew. This is kind of the season from hell for Will from a luck perspective, and I think that kind of continues here. I also think this is where the Lamar Allen trade really comes back to bite him in the ass. Lamar has been, as stated, horrible. I don't really see him snapping out of it in this first week against Pittsburgh. And then he goes on the road against Cincinnati, who he just had 6 points against. So I think Josh Allen, I think Andrew has a pretty big advantage here with Josh Allen at quarterback. He has the Bengals and then the Patriots. Those could both be shootouts with Drake May and Joe Burrow on the other side. Jacobs was a good acquisition by him, projected 20 this week. Home against the Bears, I could see him plunging in the end zone a few times there. Lamb has been really good. JMO, if Sun got – now, what I don't like here, I don't like the double Lion wide receiver strategy, not in the Sacko when you're trying to avoid losing. This is kind of a rookie move here from Suck My Dick. You got to get Tesla out of the flex there. I know he went to Arkansas. I know he has a cool name, but that's just embarrassing. I would be starting a whole host of guys off waivers over Tesla, including Keenan Allen. Yeah, I don't know. And then let's see. We've got Loveland, kind of a Bears homer play there. I guess Kill's on bye. Doesn't really have too many choices. Andrew actually has some solid players on bye. Kittle, Jennings, and Diggs all would probably be starting for him if they weren't on bye. Maybe not. Hold up. Maybe not. Who would he start between Jennings and Diggs with Jamo Lamb and Devontae? Or would he sit Devontae?
I imagine he'd be going Kittle and Jennings.
Yeah, Niners. He's kind of a Purdy dick rider, so that makes sense. He's rocking the Seahawks DST kicker stack again. At Atlanta. Don't hate that. Cousins has been kind of bummy. Woody Marks. This is kind of a hole in Andrew's lineup. It's been that way all year. RB2. Woody Marks doesn't really catch passes, doesn't really score touchdowns in that terrible offense. He's just kind of a decent rookie runner. Doesn't really score a ton of fantasy points. Averages 8 on the year. I guess if you get the blow-ups, if you get the boom performances from Jamo Lamb, Jacobs, Josh Allen, you can take like that floor 7 to 9 points from Marks. But for Will, he's definitely got some firepower. Pickens, Gibbs, both top 3 at their position. London playing would be a massive boost for him. He kind of screwed up the Evans thing, and Evans has been hurt all year, so that sucked. He doesn't have a ton of depth, as you mentioned. Like if London's out, he's having to turn to waivers or Algier or Tootin. So London playing would be massive for him. Olave looks like he's also questionable with something, a back injury, and he did not practice Wednesday. So we could be without Olave as well. This is an interesting one. I kind of agree with you. I think these are two relatively evenly matched teams, both Bears fans. They'll probably both be riding the Bears nuts on Sunday, not even caring about their fantasy matchup, and then they'll look up and they're in the Sacko final. I'm actually, I'm gonna go with Andrew. I think the quarterback battle will be won decisively. I think Lamb outscores Pickens over the course of the 2 weeks, and I think the absence of Sun God gives Jamo at least one boom out of 2 chances in this matchup. And like I said, Will's just had some tough luck this year. I think it continues, and he falls down to the Sacko final. All right, so since we're on Sacko, we'll kind of stay there. You've got Luke versus you've got Luke versus Andrew in your Sacko final. Who are you taking as your Sacko?
I'm going to go with Andrew. I think Luke only falls there because of the McCaffrey bye and the Sun God injury. Once those guys are fully back, his team's just better. And I don't really think Andrew is like the clear Sacko, but I don't know. I guess he got the Sacko a while back. It just feels like he's due for the Sacko. I don't know that Luke's going to go Sacko championship Sacko. That feels a little far-fetched. So it feels like Andrew is just going to get it again. So yeah, I'll go with Andrew. You have Will and Jerry.
Yeah, so we went pretty opposite here on the Sacko predictions. I'm gonna take the low hanging fruit here. I'm just gonna go with Jerry. I don't know. He's 1-12 for a reason. There's really, Achane is literally like the only bright spot on his roster, and I just think Jerry is gonna get punished for all this, like, honestly, pretty much giving up. He hasn't really done anything, and I think the fantasy gods are gonna punish his loafing as a manager. He deserves the Sacko. If we're all being honest, he deserves it, and I do think he will get it. So, yeah, this is just kind of one of those years from hell for Jerry that you want to get out and just never think about again. Unfortunately, I think he's going to have to be reminded for the next 9 months how trash he is. All right, championship. You've got yourself versus you've got the Showtime rematch of the Millennium from 2023. I blew you out there. I blew you out in the regular season this year, and I'm pretty sure I blew you out last year. So I've been blowing you a lot recently. What is your championship prediction?
Yeah, I mean, every preseason it's kind of a tradition that we pick ourselves to win the championship, but you never even know how the season's going to go, if you're even going to make the playoffs. But once we get to the playoffs and we're here, I think I have to pick myself here. I think if I unseat Cannon, that means that my team is rolling. And you mentioned you've had my number as of late. You've destroyed me the last few times we've met. But you can only be the evil twin for so long. At some point, you have to be vanquished. So I think it'll be this year in the championship. I'm going to bounce back and win the most unlikely championship of all time in the Blind Squirrels League. I'm going to take down Cannon. I'm going to take down you. It'll be ugly. I'm just going to drag you down in the muck and just make you wrestle with me in the mud. I don't really know how it's going to happen, but I think I'm going to win ugly matchup, but I'll come out on top and win my 4th championship.
All right. Interesting prediction there. I am going to go, let's see, I've got Cannon versus myself in the final. Top 2 teams all year. I think Cannon's he's going to use a lot of his revenge bullets on you in the semis. And he'll kind of be out of ammo for the title. I think I've made a lot of trades with the weeks 16 and 17 in mind. I've got some really good matchups for those weeks. I've got Burrow versus the Dolphins, Bucky versus the Panthers, Rashi versus the Titans, James Cook versus the Eagles, who are, weirdly enough, the 26th best defense against running backs. Ken Walker versus Carolina. So a lot of green bean matchups there in the last 2 weeks for me. I don't know. I just think Cannon's going to choke. I've had this feeling for a month or so now that Cannon he peaked too early. He talked a little too much shit. He already choked away the 12-1 season. You can't lose to Cole and expect me to take you seriously down the stretch of the year. So I do think Cannon's going to get tripped up here in the championship. He'll get a little bit rest on laurels. He'll kind of, he's going to beat you like a drum in the semi, and then just kind of he's going to already be counting his winnings, and I sneak up on him and kind of put belt to ass in the final. I actually think I'm going to blow Cannon out in the championship. I'm going to take myself. See, what's a good score across 2 weeks? I'm going to go 290 to 242. So
like that.
Yeah. Like the last 2 weeks he's kind of put up what didn't we say, like 113, 114, 112.
Yeah.
I think he's going to hover around there across the championship weeks, and I'm going to put up closer to like 130, 140 in those weeks. So yeah, Cannon's a fraud. We've kind of seen this coming for a while now, and this is we're going to see it in action here in the championship. So I'm going to take myself. You're going to take yourself. We'll see if any of the Showtime members get crowned yet again. I know the rest of the league will absolutely despise themselves and us if one of us wins the championship yet again. So we'll be rooting for that, and we will be back on the pod to gloat when it happens. Are we doing another episode or?
No.
Okay. So this is pretty much your last episode of the Showtime Fantasy Podcast for 2025. Obviously, we'll still be in the group chat with updates, game previews, talking shit, stuff like that. But You will not hear from us audio-wise until the draft preview for 2026. Should be fun. It's been a great season, another great fantasy season for the Blind Squirrels League. Ramey Pride always runs deep. The OGs running the playoffs, the Bums and the Sacko. You and I both made the playoffs, so it's been a good year for Showtime. And we'll see if one of us can finish this thing and bring it home. So, do you have any parting words for our listeners?
No, like you said, it's been a fun year. Feels like just yesterday we were at the Beaver Lake House eating a fish fry out of the fryer and me burning cookies in the oven. And now here we are, both of us in the playoffs. Cannon 11-2, Jerry 1-12. It happens fast, but really what's most important is these next 4 weeks. And that's the next 4 weeks for the rest of our lives, as they say. And Oaklawn next week, by the way, should be fun.
That should be fun. Plenty of league content to come from there. It'll be the second week of the first round of both playoffs and Sacko. Josh and I, opponents, we will be there. Cannon's not coming. Luke is coming. Will maybe. We'll see who comes. It should be fun. It's been a fun year. I can still feel my stomach churning after eating that burger Josh cooked. This league is very near and dear to my heart every week, checking the scores. The screen time I have on the fantasy app is just embarrassing. Makes me look like a complete loser. Just staring at my lineup, trying to figure out the puzzle. But awesome. Thank you guys all for listening this season and for this week. We will be back eventually. And that'll do it.
Good outro.